It started with a bookshelf. Just a simple, flat-pack thing I bought online. I measured the hallway where it was supposed to go, just to be sure. 110 centimeters. The bookshelf was 100. Perfect. 10 centimeters of clearance. Easy. When it arrived, I put it together right there in the living room. It was a bit of a struggle, but I finally got it standing. Then I tried to move it into the hall. It wouldn't fit. Not even close. I pushed, I angled, I twisted. Nothing. It was stuck. I got out my tape measure, frustrated. The bookshelf was exactly 100 centimeters, just like the website said. But the hallway was 95. I just stood there, staring at the numbers. 95. That wasn't possible. I measured it myself. 110. I even had the little pencil marks on the wall to prove it. But the tape didn't lie. 95. I must have made a mistake. A really dumb 10-centimeter mistake. Annoyed, I took the bookshelf apart, rebuilt it inside the hallway, and tried to forget about my own stupidity. But the feeling didn't go away. It lingered like a bad taste in my mouth. The hallway started to feel tight. When I walked down it, my shoulders seemed to brush the walls more often. I'd lived in this apartment for 3 years. I knew its dimensions. I knew the feel of its spaces. And something felt wrong. A week later, I was bringing in groceries. I had a big bag in each hand. Usually, I could walk straight down the hall without a problem. This time, I had to turn sideways to get through. I dropped the bags on the kitchen counter, my heart starting to thump a little too fast. I grabbed the tape measure again. I stretched it from wall to wall, right next to the bookshelf. The metal tip clicked against the baseboard. I leaned in close. 92 centimeters. My breath hitched. 92. It had been 95 just a week ago. This was impossible. Houses don't just shrink. I measured again. And again. Same result. 92. I felt a cold dread creep up my spine. Was I losing my mind? I started measuring everything. Every day. I kept a little notebook, logging the numbers. The hallway was the worst. 92 became 90. Then 89. It was losing about a centimeter every few days. Other things were changing too, but more subtly. The doorway to my bedroom seemed a little narrower. The space between the kitchen counter and the fridge felt tighter. It was like the whole apartment was slowly, almost imperceptibly, closing in on me. I stopped having people over. I was too embarrassed. How could I explain that my apartment was shrinking? They'd think I was crazy. Maybe I was. I started to doubt my own senses. I'd stand in the middle of the living room and just stare at the walls, trying to see them move. I'd press my hands against them, half expecting to feel them pushing back. The claustrophobia began to set in. It started as a low-level anxiety, a constant tension in my shoulders, but it grew. I started feeling suffocated, even in the larger rooms. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, gasping for air, convinced the ceiling was lower than it was when I went to sleep. The hallway became a source of genuine fear. I'd have to take a deep breath and psych myself up just to walk down it. My shoulders would be pressed against both walls, the rough texture of the paint scraping my shirt. The bookshelf, once my pride, was now a monument to my shrinking world. Its shelves were starting to bow, squeezed by the encroaching walls. I thought about moving, of course. I spent hours online, looking at new apartments. But a terrifying thought stopped me. What if it wasn't the apartment? What if it was me? What if I took this curse with me? The thought was so paralyzing that I couldn't bring myself to even call a real estate agent. I was trapped. One night, I was rummaging through old papers, looking for anything, a distraction, an answer. I found the original rental agreement from when I first moved in. Tucked inside was a faded, folded piece of paper, a floor plan. It was a simple, hand-drawn sketch, probably done by the landlord years ago. It had all the measurements written in faint pencil. My hands were shaking as I unfolded it. I found the hallway. The number written next to it was clear, even after all this time. 120 centimeters. I dropped the paper. 120. Not 110, like I'd first measured. My memory had already started to compensate, to shrink along with the space. I grabbed my tape measure. I went to the hallway, which was now so narrow I could barely squeeze through. The bookshelf had splintered, its wood groaning under the immense pressure. I held the tape measure up. The space between the walls was now 78 centimeters. A cold, stark realization washed over me. I wasn't going crazy. It was real. The apartment was closing in, and the floor plan wasn't just evidence. It was a memorial, a record of a space that no longer existed, a space I could no longer return to. I don't know how much smaller it can get. I spend most of my time in the living room now, the largest space left. But even here, I feel it. The walls are closer. The air is thicker. Sometimes I press my ear against the plaster, and I think I can hear a low, grinding sound. The sound of a house digesting its contents. The sound of my world getting smaller and smaller until there's no room left at all. I don't know what happens then. But I know I'm running out of time to find out. Thanks for listening. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more. Stay safe out there.